Okay, so we are beginning the seventh perek in the bottom of 68b, and we're going to cover daf 70. We have a few very important and profound agadot and a lot of interesting halachot as well. So we begin Ba'alo Kohen Gadol Likrot. So the next thing he's going to do is he's going to read the Sefer Torah, parallel to our Kiryat Sefer Torah. Im rasa likrot bebigdei bus, koreh, im lav, koreh beistelit lavan mishelo. He's been wearing the white clothing all along. This is the Yom Kippur service. And so now if he wants to continue wearing the white linen clothing, that's fine. But if not, if he wants to change into his own white robe, doesn't have to necessarily be white, but it probably is going to be anyway. If you want to wear his own clothes, he can. This is curious that you have a choice, first of all, like everything on Yom Kippur is so defined precisely, and he can do whatever he wants. So this Gemara is going to discuss this. Is this an actual avodah? In that case, he should wear a bus. Is it not an avodah? Then why is he doing it? You know, and if it's not an avodah, can he wear the big boots? So this will be a topic of discussion. Now, when they're taking out the Torah, Hazan HaKnesset notel Sefer Torah v'notno lerosh HaKnesset. Beginning of the Perek 7. Yeah, so they're going to take it out of wherever it was kept. There seems to have been a Bet Knesset on Har HaBayit. Some people today want to build a Bet Knesset on Har HaBayit, and on the corner, anywhere. It doesn't have to be right in the middle. So anyway, they would go to that there, and the Chazan would take it out. Chazan doesn't mean what it means today. It's not the cantor. Chazan seems to come from the word lechazot, to see. He's the overseer. Later on, it came to mean the Chazan as we know it. Notel Sefer Torah, so he takes it. Notno lerosh HaKnesset, he gives it to the head of the synagogue, meaning like the president. So it goes from a lower level and he gives it to the higher level guy. That guy, Rosh HaKnesset, notno lasigan. The Rosh HaKnesset, by the way, we have in Greek inscriptions in ancient Batei Knesset that says archi synagogos. Archi in Greek means the head of, like archbishop. Right, so archi synagogos, and we have a lot of inscriptions. You know, that's probably the person that donated it or the biggest contributor. So he gives it to the sgan of the deputy Kohen Gadol. As sgan notno Kohen Gadol. So in other words, you have a whole procession to bring honor and make it very very special. Kohen Gadol omed umekabel v'koreh be'acharemot. So the Kohen Gadol receives it, opens it up, and while standing, there's also another halakha that we always read Torah when we're standing. So he reads Acharemot, the whole parasha that we read today. But also Ve'ach Be'asor, also in Parashat Emor, which we don't read on Yom Kippur, we read it on other holidays. Ve'golel Sefer Torah u'manicho b'chayko, and then he rolls it up and puts it under his arm. Ve'omer yoter mima shekarati lifnechem katuv kan. There's other matters also regarding Yom Kippur. U'be'asor shebechumash ha'pekudim koreh al peh. So Chumash Pikudim, that's what they used to call Sefer Bemidbar. That's the original name, the book of numbers. So it's interesting. The English, what we say in English numbers, actually comes from the Septuagint, and the Septuagint, the Greek, actually got it from an original Hebrew, which is a nice word because has a lot of numbers and counting. So it's actually a more a name that describes the book better than just picking the first word. Bemidbar. Anyway, this is from Parashat Pinchas. Where you have the korbanot. This would be the maftir for Yom Kippur. And so interestingly, he reads the first two sections. The first two sections are both in Vayikra, but not too far apart. So it won't take too long to roll from one to the other. The other one's in Bemidbar. He's not going to waste Torah Sibur to turn that one. So that one he says by heart, which is also interesting because there is a rule that you're not allowed to say words, Torah Shebichtav, you're not allowed to say by heart. But okay, I guess for Torah Sibur, so he read enough, and he reads this by heart. Now, Mubarech aleha shimona berachot, and then he says 8 berachot. This is similar, like after we get an aliyah, we say 1 beracha. After haftarah, right, we say a whole series of berachot. So this seems to be a version of that. Here are the 8. You can try to count them if you want. Al ha-Torah, so that would be Birkot Torah, because he just said that. Al ha-Avodah, that's similar to our beracha v'deseh in the Amidah, right? It mentions the Avodah. Al ha-Hoda'ah, a blessing of thanksgiving. That's like our beracha modim. Al mechilat ha'avon, on atonement of sin. That would be parallel to the middle beracha on Yom Kippur. right? Right? Hayom berachamim v'al mikdash b'fnei atzmo, and you say a separate one just for thank you for choosing the mikdash. V'Yisrael b'fnei asman boched b'Yisrael v'al Yerushalayim b'fnei asma. Yerushalayim gets his own beracha. Maybe it's parallel to our beracha of Yerushalayim in the Amidah, or Yerushalayim. V'al kohanim b'fnei atzman. So beracha regarding blessing the kohanim that Hashem chose them. Maybe similar to the beracha that the kohanim say before they start berakat kohanim. Right. Very good. We right, exactly. We even say Bocher b'Torah Moshe Abdo. We said Amo, right? So we have a series in our beracha. So you could probably go and reconstruct this version of it. Baal Sha'ara Tefillah, and also the rest of the Tefillah, like you say, Shomea Tefillah. That would be an ending, like we end the middle section. Okay, if you count them, there's actually 9 blessings here. So perhaps one was added. There are some versions that maybe don't have Yerushalayim, or maybe you count the Sha'ara Tefillah, and that is one of the 8. That's just like a summary of all of them. Okay, so one way or another ends up being 9. Then haroeh kohen gadol kishu koreh and haroeh par v'sa'ir nisrafin. So these things are happening at the same time. The kohen gadol is reading Torah while the other kohanim took the carcass outside of the walls of Jerusalem and are burning it. And so you have to pick. It's like, the Olympics. There's a lot of events going on. So when you're there, you gotta, you can't see both because they're simultaneous. If you want to go out and see that burning, then you're going to miss out on the reading of the Torah. It's not that you're not allowed to. It's too far. There's no way you can make it back and forth. And they are done at the same time. Good. That's the Mishnah. Now the Gemara will comment. Since mentioned that he can use his own robe while he's reading Sefer Torah, that means it's not an official avodah. But if he wants to use the official garments, then he's allowed to. How could that be? Here we can learn from here that you're allowed to, the Kohen Gadol or any Kohen is allowed to use bigdei kehuna for personal use. This would be parallel like this rules of if you're in the army, are you allowed to wear your army fatigue on day off, right? You just want to hang out, they're comfortable. Or if you're a police officer, right? Can you wear them when you're off duty? So I think the army actually does have rules about that. I don't think you're allowed to just wear them. You can wear them on the way. I remember IDF soldier. I think they can wear them on their way home, but that's it. They can't just wear them for fun. But if you're a doctor and you're wearing scrubs and they're comfortable, you want to wear scrubs on your day off. Okay, nobody's going to care. So what's the status of bigdei kehuna? Are you allowed to get personal benefit from them? They're nice and warm. They're silk. You like them. Not silk, linen. Are you allowed? So we can learn from here that he is allowed to derive personal benefit because here he's allowed to wear them, even though he's doing just not an official avodah. He can continue wearing them. Okay, good. So let's see. This is going to be the next discussion back and forth. No, you can't derive from here. Even though kiriyah is not an official avodah, it's needed for the purpose of avodah. We're reading the instructions, make sure we're going to do it the right way. It's not just hanging out reading a novel. So it's still the sorech avodah. We can't necessarily learn from here that you can do whatever, you can use them for whatever you want. Okay, so therefore we have no conclusion from here. Now we're going to backtrack and say, have a general question about this topic, and then we're going to do a whole review of this topic. We had asked, can you use them on your own, or can you not? Are you not allowed to derive benefit from them? Generally, things that are kodesh, you can't take a vessel from the mikdash and drink from it, So, but these have a little different. You are getting warm from it while you're wearing it, even if you're in the. We had the same problem in the Spanish Portuguese synagogue. We had the robe, the black robe, and then about 100 years ago, they always wanted the rabbi to wear it all the time, even outside. He went to the supermarket. They're like priests. They wear the collar. And then Rabbi the Solopul protested. I'm not wearing this to the supermarket. I look ridiculous. And he had a big fight with the committee. And finally, he said, okay, fine. You only have to wear it in the synagogue. Okay. So Tashema. Oh, can you wear the zahav?
Yeah.
Good. So it seems that he's not allowed to change into the zahav now because you can't change into something until you're ready to use it for the, for the regular service. So he's already in there. He's already in it. So can you stay in it, or do you have to change out? But it seems, according to most of the commentaries, that you can't use the zahav. So we have this braita that says you're not allowed to sleep in the holy garments. So shenahu dela hamechal achle. Why does it pick sleeping? Sleeping is like really a way of not a derogatory way of using them. Yeah. So sleeping is not allowed, but that means other activities like eating that should be allowed, right? Just based on it should bring the least problematic activity. No, maybe it didn't choose eating because some eating is for the avodah. Like a chatat offering that people bring, the kohanim have to eat it. By eating it, that's how the people who brought the chatat get kapara. So eating must be allowed. That's why it didn't say eating. Okay, fine. So maybe we'll learn it in a different way. Okay, you can't sleep in them, but maybe you can walk in them. You want to go for a walk around Jerusalem, should be allowed, right? No, but and therefore we can learn that yes, personal benefit is allowed, and then we say no. Really, even walking is not allowed. So why did it say sleeping if even walking is not allowed? Because the next part of the braita says, they used to fold the clothing and put it under their heads. So since you want to say that the sleeping is not allowed, but using as a pillow is allowed. That's why you use sleeping, but really walking wouldn't be allowed. So therefore we can't derive that you're allowed to get personal benefit from it. Hold on, you just said you're using it as a pillow, right? So that itself is personal benefit. Okay, that's the next question. We brought it, they brought it as an answer, but really now it's a good question. If you do this as a pillow, that means you can derive personal benefit. Fine, maybe not zilzul, like sleeping in it, but this is okay. No, it's not literally under their head, but rather next to their head. They put it, so like a rollover pillow or something. Oh, we can learn from this that if let's say you have tefillin, you put the tefillin on the side, that's also okay. You don't have to worry that I might roll over and end up either lying down on the tefillin or ruining them, or wearing it out to wear tefillin when you're sleeping either. So we can learn from here that we don't worry that you might roll over and end up sleeping using it as a pillow. So that's what we learn from there. But really, you cannot derive benefit from it. You can put it on the side, but not as a pillow. So it is going to be the final answer. So we say, you know what? This is not just a made-up excuse. It sounds like really this is true, that this is the explanation of the Braita, that's not under their head, it's next to them. Because if it was under their head, then you'd have a problem of kilayim. The belt of the bigdei keuna is made out of wool, right? Blue wool, and the rest is made out of linen. So okay, they're allowed to wear it when they're doing avodah because this is more important than kilayim. But if you're not doing avodah, just using it as a pillow, it wouldn't be allowed. And so therefore, it must be that it's actually next to them and not under their head. Right? Even if you say you can benefit from them, are you allowed to violate kilayim just to use a pillow? For sure, you wouldn't be able to. That's going to come up now, right? What's the definition of kilayim? It's only when you're wearing it. What if you're just lying down on it or sitting on it? So hanicha leman de'amar abneto shel kohen gadol zehu abneto shel kohen hejot. Okay, this argument that you just said makes sense according to the opinion that says the belt of the kohen gadol is the same as that of the hejot, right? Because they are made out of linen, right? The kohen gadol wears only linen, only white. And so if you say it's the same, then the regular Kohen all year round is only white and not linen, not wool, right? Only linen. And so according to that, really you wouldn't have a proof. It could be under their head. So you wouldn't have to, right. If you say they're different, in other words, the Kohen Gadol does wear wool, but the Kohen Gadol does not wear wool, but the regular Kohen does wear wool, then everything you said before is in fact a proof. Okay, now that you mentioned that, okay, fine. So in other words, we have a proof that for sure was on the side or not. Now, and maybe you'll tell me, like you just said, well, kilayim means you're not allowed to wear it, right? I mean, what does it say? Lo tilbash and lo yeh alecha. That's the right. That's the words. It means that we're wearing it. But if you're just lying, if you spread it out and you're lying on it, what's the problem? Technically, you're right. But even if you're lying on it, one thread might wrap around your, might lie on you, and then you would be in fact violating. So, but you're right. Technically, if it's, we're going to see if it's total. If you can be sure that it won't, then it would be allowed. So really, it is only about wearing. Maybe you'll put things in between, right? You put them under, and then you put another sheet, another mattress on top. That's a nice derivation from the Holy Community in Jerusalem. This is what they used to say. Even 10 is like the princess and the pea, right? Even 10, you can't, you're still benefiting from it, you're still using it. So it's not even about a thread. So, and therefore, from all this, we can conclude that even lying down on it would be a problem of kilayim, and therefore, it could not possibly be that it was under his head, it was next to his head. And so really big dek yonah, you're not allowed to. This conclusion so far is big dek yonah, you're not allowed to derive benefit from it, if we accept all those opinions. However, Rav Ashi is going to give us the bottom line. Now I reject all that. It was under their heads. Maybe he follows the other opinion that's made out of linen. Hold on, what about the kilayim? No, even if it's made out of wool, it's made out of hard material. There's still stiff felt that they make in the city of Neresh is permitted. Felt is, since it's stiff, there's no threads hanging out, so therefore you don't have to worry that if you're lying down on it, that the threads will go around on you, and therefore it is permitted. This is actually interesting. This is halakha l'maaseh in Shulchan Aruch, that if it's some kind of felt material, hard material, and you're just lying down on it, even if you're wearing it, it's not really considered wearing if it's like a stiff kind of thing. So I don't know what kind of applications that might have. But Shulchan Aruch does add, but if you should still be better to be careful of such a thing and not rely on this kula. But technically, you can't sit on or lie on something that has kilayim if it's thick, if it's hard. Okay, good. Now, so now next topic. Tashema. Bigdei kehuna. היוסף בהן למדינה אסור, ובמקדש בין בשעת עבודה בין שלא בשעת עבודה מותר, מפני שבגדי כהונה ניתנו ליהנות בהן שמאמינה. Okay, we are concluding that you're allowed to derive benefit from it, but you're not allowed to leave the Medina. So it seems to mean the temple area. While you're in the Bet HaMikdash area, whether you're actually doing avodah or not doing avodah, right? Like doctors in the hospital, he's wearing it no matter what, even when he's taking a break. But once you leave, then when you're outside, you should not be wearing them. Okay, which makes sense in the context. But now, b'medina law, is that true that you're not allowed to wear them outside the Bet HaMikdash? We're going to bring a couple of proofs that it's not true. Actually, this is one long proof. This is a famous story of the meeting of Alexander the Great with the Kohen Gadol. Okay, we'll bring this very important historical story we're only interested in it for the small halachic nugget of it. That happens to be that the Kohen Gadol leaves Jerusalem. Let's see the story. You can see from this phrasing that this is a quote from Megillat Ta'anit. Megillat Ta'anit is an ancient work. We still have it. It lists about 36 days that are happy days, and you're not allowed to fast. It really should be called Megillat Lo Ta'anit, right? You're not allowed to fast. You're not allowed to give eulogies because these are happy days. And then it goes on and lists all the dates. And then there's another section that is added in later that explains each of the dates and what happened, what's the happy thing that happened on those dates. They come from all different periods of history. We don't follow this halacha anymore. So nowadays, although some of them we do, like Hanukkah is on the list. For happy days, these are all happy days. Most of them nowadays we still make eulogies. We don't follow this anymore, but it actually is a very important source for many historical events. Okay, so here's what happened. Yom shebikshu kutiyim et bet Elohenu Alexandros Mokelon achribo untano lahem. This is a day when the kutim, that's the Samaritans. It's a negative way of talking about Samaritans by saying they're not really the 10 tribes of Israel. They're from a foreign place called Kuta. And they came to Alexander the Great. This is in the year 332 BCE. Alexander the Great came from Macedonia and Greece, and he took over the whole Mediterranean. So as he's going through, he conquers one country after another, and the Samaritans meet him. And the Samaritans say, listen, these Jews, no good, right? You can't trust them. Better to destroy their Bet HaMikdash. And Alexander was going to do it. So some messengers came and told Shimon HaSadik, he was the Kohen Gadol. At the time, famous and righteous Kohen Gadol. So he went and specifically put on his bigdei kehuna. The lavash and nitatef is really the same thing. This is a common phrase. And he brought the important people of Yerushalayim, of Israel. Now, this is not Yerushalayim, but remember we had before the similar phrase. The people who escort the Sa'ir are also Meyakire Yerushalayim. So he brought all the important officials, their hand torches because they're traveling at night. And so you have Kohen Gadol and his officials walking one way, and Alexander the Great with his people, and the Samaritans were also with him. They're already buddies with him, and they're walking the other way, and they meet at dawn. Once they got a little sunny, he saw Alexander the Great, saw them from far and says, who's that? The Samaritans, those are those rebellious Jews. They rebelled against you. They're not accepting your authority. I mean that they're still following the Persians, right? So they got as soon as they got to this city, Antipatris, you can go there today. We know where it is. The sun rose, and so now it's daylight. This whole story has a parallel in Josephus, almost the exact same story, which is really fascinating. Except that Josephus says that they met in Jerusalem on Harat Sofim. And now that is less likely because Alexander didn't travel that way. He wouldn't go all the way inland. He's traveling along the coast. So this is an interesting case where the Talmud version is more historically accurate than Josephus, even though Josephus is hundreds of years earlier. Well, even Josephus is 400 years after the events. So it's not like he was there. Okay, but somehow the rabbis didn't get it from Josephus because they don't have, right? They have a better version. Somehow they passed on. So that's very cool. Now they met each other. As soon as Alexander the Great saw Shimon HaSadik, he got off his chariot and bowed down before him. Now everybody's wondering. They thought, okay, he's going to charge and kill him. And now he's bowing down to him. What are you, a great king? You're bowing down to this lowly Jew. I see this man's face is my inspiration as I go on the battlefield. Josephus has an even more miraculous version. It says, when I was back home, I used to see his face in a dream, and I was wondering, should I go and conquer? And he told me I should go. Okay, so and now that I see him, he's very special. Amar lehem, lama batem. So Alexander the Great says, why did you come? Says, how can it be that we pray for you, for your well-being every day, that you should be successful? And now non-Jews are tricking you that you should come and destroy it. Right? It's true. We do. We always prayed for the welfare of the government. Right? It's in the Yirmiyah, it's in the Avot, and the Mikdash we accepted and sacrificed offerings for the well-being of whoever was ruling. So who are these terrible people who are tricking me and to tell me that I should destroy you? This Amru Allah, Kutihim halalu shem right? There's a lot of parallels with the Purim story here. Alexander the Great says, okay, take them. You can do whatever you want with them. All right, so they do. This is a little gory. So the Jews took the Samaritans and connected their heels. They put nails in their feet. And they hung and they connected them to the horses' tails. And they dragged them through thorns. I think it would be bad enough to just drag the person on the ground. I don't think the thorns at that point are going to be the worst part. Or they went all the way to Ad-Gerizim. That's where the Samaritans considered the holiest place, and that's where they built their temple. And so they went there and destroyed their temple. Not only did they destroy the temple, they plowed it over and seeded it with leeks, like weeds, so it could never be used again. This is midah ken midah. That's what they wanted to do to the Bet HaMikdash in Jerusalem, so that's what they got. It's true. Later, Hasmani and John Hyrcanus, we know, when he conquered the north, he went up and he destroyed the Samaritan temple. And that day was a day of festivity. They were about to be destroyed, and because Shimon HaSadik, a bold move, right? He went out, risked his life. And who knows? They could have killed him. And right, but not precisely. So that day is a holiday. Okay, why do we bring this whole story? Not because it's a really fascinating and essential, important story for history, but only because you forgot already. Because how could he go outside the Bet HaMikdash when he's wearing big neck Kohen Gadol? See, we're so lucky that we have this halachic question. Otherwise, the rabbis would never. The rabbis knew this history, but it wasn't important to them to write a history book, right? You have to know the halacha. So luckily, we have this. By the way, this story is really essential because it shows that under the Persians, the Jews were okay, right? The Persians allowed religious tolerance. They weren't sure. Now, when the Greeks come, is there going to be religious tolerance again? So they have this meeting, and the rest of the source in the meeting, they says, okay, what else? What can I grant you? It says, we want religious freedom. We want to practice as according to our ancestral customs. Alexander the Great says, yes, of course you can. And even if you join the army, we'll make sure to get you kosher food, and and you can keep all your things. So this shows that at the beginning, the Hellenistic Empire was favorable to the Jews and didn't impinge on their religion. Okay, so two answers. Some say he didn't actually wear bigdei kehuna. He got something that was at the high level. It was as expensive and as official looking as bigdei kehuna. So really, it's not allowed. Or, okay, he's about to destroy the Bet HaMikdash. This is a time to act for God. The Peshat of the Pasuk is, it's time to act for God because people have nullified your Torah. We got to go and do something about it. But the Midrash is, when it's the time to do something for God, you can even nullify the Torah, right? You can undo a law for the greater good. I mean, so better to violate one law for a few minutes and save the Bet HaMikdash. But otherwise, actually, would not be allowed. So the bottom line is, you are a Kohen is allowed to get personal benefit from the begadim, but only in the Bet HaMikdash, not outside. Okay, now we get to the next session. V'chazan hakenes notel sefer Torah. Shema minach holkin kavod l'talmidim b'mkom harav. Hold on, how could they give it to the? How could they give the sefer Torah to the chazan and then to the? This is a lowly guy. You're giving honor to a lower person in front of a greater person. So this is, and in general, you're not allowed to do that. You have a greater person, you have to give honor to the greater person. That's an insult to the greater person. So in this case, it's okay. The Kohen Gadol, the whole thing is for the honor of the Kohen Gadol. Eventually, it's going to go to him. That would be, if you gave it to the Chazan and only he did it and he read it, Kohen Gadol sitting there like, all right, like nothing. It is. It is. It's ascending. So actually, it gives even greater honor by doing it this way. The Kohen Gadol omed mikelal shu yoshev. What do you mean he can stand up? Was he sitting before that you say he should stand? Okay, I mean the simple meaning of the Mishnah, maybe he was standing already, but just make sure he's standing. How could he even think that he could be sitting? No one is allowed to sit in the courtyard. Only a king. Now, so David is allowed to sit in the courtyard. He's a great stature, he can sit, but otherwise it's a holy place, this is God's home. Not appropriate for anyone else to sit. He didn't have a Bet HaMikdash in the Mishkan. He sat before God, so he can do it. But nobody else, not even the Kohen Gadol. Our answer is it was not. It was in the Ezrat Nashim, not in the courtyard, right? Ezrat Nashim was outside. Ezrat Nashim has the same holiness status as the rest of the Har HaBayit, the rest of the plaza, and so that's where they did the reading. Was Ezrat Nashim, so that's why yes, he could have been sitting there, and then he would stand up to receive the Torah. So here, remember, we saw as Rav Chisda said somewhere else. Where's the somewhere else? What's the original context for Rav Chisda's statement? Here it is. Aha, metibe detanya hechan korin bo ba'azara. Where did they read the Torah? It seems to be talking about Hakel in general, right? Where do you do Hakel? On Sukkot every 7 years. Ba'azara, he says no, on the Temple Mount, not in the courtyard, outside. Where did we learn it from? From Ezra. When Ezra came from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael, right, and he presented the Torah to the people. The people themselves forgot the Torah. And so he builds a stage and he reads it before them. Where does he read it? On the street in front of Watergate. Shad Hamayim. The Watergate Hotel was named after this pasuk. Okay, and so therefore you see that this was on Har HaBayit, not in the courtyard itself. Rav Chisda, commenting on Tanakama, said Azara doesn't mean the Azara, the inner courtyard, but rather Ezrat Nashim. So really, it's a lower level. That's the original place he said it regarding Hakel, but we apply it to this case too, because it's a useful answer. It's always interesting when the rabbi says something and we move it around, right, and apply it to places where he didn't actually say it, but conceptually it makes sense. He would say it. He could be sitting. It's a long day. Maybe he's sitting in Ezrat Nashim until whatever he's waiting for the next thing, and then when they bring the Torah, then he'll stand up. Vayibarech Ezra et Adonai ha'Elohim hagadol. My gadol. So now they were talking about this thing in Ezra, this part of Ezra. Ezra, when he brought the Torah and he blessed Hashem hagadol. Right? What does it mean gadol? The great God. Amarav Yosef Amarav shegidelo b'shem hameforash. It means he made him great by using the Shem hameforash. Ezra used God's official name when he was blessing God. That's one opinion. Rav Gidel Amar Baruch Adonai Elohei Yisrael min haolam v'ad haolam. No, he taught them to make this special response. Like we say Baruch Hashem, right? So they would say this longer one. So that's God saying God is great, a greater phrase. Okay, so that's the two opinions. So Abaye has a question. According to how come Rav Gidel doesn't agree with Rav and say they use the Shema Meforash? Not allowed to. Big bulim means outside the provinces. Here it refers to even outside the courtyard. Well, if you're in the Azara, you can. But we just learned that he's not in the Azara. You're not allowed to use Hashem's name. So that's why he gives the other opinion. Now, he taught them a beautiful blessing to say. ולא, הכתיב ויעמוד עזרא הסופר על מגדל עץ אשר עשו לדבר. ואמר רב גידל שגידלו בשם המפורש. However, we have this pasuk that sounds like he made the special stage, and we're inferring from here somehow that it seems to be that this wasn't that this was outside the Azara, and yet Reb Gidel said that he did say Shema Meforash. So how could this be? Answer is Hora'at Sha'a Haita. Right, this is a one-time event, similar to what we said Et Lasot Hashem. Because this was such a special thing, Ezra is reading the Torah for the first time. Remember, when he reads it, they never heard of it. They didn't know it was Rosh Hashanah. They didn't know about Sukkot, and so this was like almost like a recreation of Matan Torah for them. That's why he builds the platform and shows it to them. So therefore, it required saying God's name, like the lightning and thunder. He wants, it was worthy, but it was only a one time. But you're right, the halacha is that you cannot say God's name outside. Now since we're on the topic of Ezra Nehemiah, we quote in the next perek in Nehemiah. There's another time when the people get together and they cry out. Vayitzaku el Adonai Elohim bekol gadol. May amor. What were they crying out? What were they praying for? Amar avitem Rabbi Yochanan. Biya, biya. They said, whoa, woe is to us. The Yetzer Hara is too strong. Ainu hayt acharabe lemikdasha vekale lehechle vekatlinu lekul hesadike taglinu l'Yisrael me'arahon adayin meraked benan. They saw the evil inclination for Avodah Zarah. And it said, because of Avodah Zarah, destroyed our temple, burned the sanctuary, all the righteous ones were murdered, and because this exile, and look, it's still here. In other words, they're in the beginning of the second Beit HaMikdash, and they see people wanting to go do Avodah Zarah. And like, all this all over again, right? We just went through this whole process, and we thought we were better. We're coming back. We can't do it. The test is too strong. God, why did you send this desire for Avodah Zarah? Is it to give us reward when we overcome it? You know what? Forget the reward and forget the challenge, right? We can't stand up to it. It's too hard, right? Like you put a kid in an advanced math class, right? Oh, you'll do better or anything. Too hard. Get me back in the dumb class. Right? I can't. We're not up to it. Right? This caused so much damage beforehand. So a piece of paper fell from the sky and it said truth on it. In other words, yes. Right? Hashem accepts. It's interesting that it says why truth. There's another pasuk that says emet me'eres tismach. Emet will rise from the ground. In the Midrash, it says God had to banish truth somehow. By getting rid of Avodah Zarah, there's some truth is missing, right? Like like the test is easier now, but you're missing out on the integrity of the process by overcoming it. So Hashem says, okay, fine, right? That's why. This explains how come today people aren't doing idolatry. You don't see people going pagan. It was so popular back then, and then already in the time of the rabbis, like no one's doing it. Go to India, right? Right. And truth is, the Greeks and Romans they did have worship and all that, but by the Jews nobody was caring about it. So this story explains why the shift. So now, Amar Rav Chanina, Shema Amina, Chot Moshe Kadosh Baruch Hu Emet. We can learn from this that God's seal is truth. Okay, remember this is going to come up in the next Agadah. Otibu beta'anita tilata yominu sadatu tlata lelvata. So they fasted for 3 days and 3 nights. Misaruhu nihale, and they gave them the other inclination, the inclination for sexual desire. Right? They prayed, okay, like while we're at it, right? Look, Hashem is giving in. Okay, maybe we can get rid of this Yetzer Hara, that Yetzer Hara too, and we won't have that problem. It came out of the Kodesh Kodashim in the form of a fiery lion. This is interesting because if you remember, what was the form of the fire on the Mizbeach? It had the form of a lion, right? And in the first Bet HaMikdash, this is one of the miracles. Remember, we had that list of miracles, and so in the second Bet HaMikdash, no longer. So this might be connected to that, right? Okay, fine. You don't have that avodah that Yetzer Hara anymore, but you don't, on that counterbalance, don't have the great miracle, right? Every bad has a counterpart good, right? There's okay. Amalehu Navi Israel, Hainu Yisrad Avodah Zara Shenemar, Vayomer Zot Harishah. Okay, so and there was a Navi there, probably Zechariah. It is Zechariah because we quote a pasuk from Zechariah. He was in one of the last Nevi'im, and he said, "This is evil." Okay, well, this is quoting Zechariah chapter 5, one of the strangest scenes in all of Nevi'im. He sees a ephah is a measuring, big measurement, like a tub or big basket. And he sees this ephah, and Ezra's like, Zechariah says, what is this? All of a sudden, there's a disc of lead that's lifted, right? It's a tub, and then the top opens up, and there's a woman inside. I'm reading the Pesukim that I have here. So there's a woman inside. And the voice of prophecy said, this is the representation of evil, right? This woman in the tub. And so she was put back in, and the lead covering was placed on her. In other words, she's gone, right? This Yetzer Hara is enclosed, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. So that's how they're referring to it. Even though we just said it's like a lion, and in this prophecy it's the shape of a woman. Okay, but it's the same thing. Okay, super interesting. Now, yes, yes. Well, okay. Here's wait. Let me finish the story. So as they caught it, right? They put it in custody, and one of its hairs fell, and it let out a shriek. This Yetzer Hara form. People could hear that shriek for 400 parsal. This is like a really scary thing. So what should we do? If we start beating it up, it's going to scream even louder, and from heaven, they're going to have mercy on it. And they're going to say, no, you got to let it go. And so we can't be too tough. Just put it into a lead container and seal it up with lead, because lead absorbs sound. It's like a nuclear power here. משבשב קלה, ושנאמר ויאמר זאת הרשעה וישלח אותה לתוך האפה וישלח את אבן נופלת אל פיה. So it's only temporary holding so, right? They didn't kill it. They just said put it in there and let it scream and let's see what happens. אמרו הואיל ועת רצון הוא ניבאי רחמיה ישרד העבירה והוא רחמיה וימסר בידיהו. Okay, sorry, I made a mistake. Everything that we've been saying until now was the Yetzer Hara of Avodah Zarah. Okay, so they took the Avodah Zarah. It was like a lion and like a woman. They closed it up. It's gone. That's in that container somewhere. It's gone forever. Okay, and so I think there's a counterpart. Like the Bet HaMikdash didn't have the same holiness as the first one because also there was no Avodah Zarah. Somehow the desire for Avodah Zarah, if you can control it, right, it can bring greater spiritual heights. Not having that at all, then you also don't have the other. Okay, so fine. That's the end of that story. Now they said, oh, since we're on a roll, let's also ask for the Yetzer Hara for sexual desire. Now, so they prayed, and yes, it was given over to them. Zechariah said, be careful if you destroy the Yetzer Hara, this Yetzer Hara for sexual desire, you'll destroy the world. So they put it in jail, and then for 3 days, they looked around and they couldn't find a fresh egg anywhere in Israel because the chickens weren't mating. So there was no egg, no more eggs. What should we do? Should we kill it? Then the world will be destroyed. Nobody will reproduce. We do so say half strength. right? Half level, whatever it is, just give it, half is enough, right? They'll still have children. No, there's no negotiating. There's no halvesies in the heaven. Rather, they plucked out its eyes of the avodah zarah and they let it go. So now it's blind. A kechal is also a word for eyeshadow. I guess it's the same, like you're putting something sharp near your eye. So it blinded it. What does that mean that they blinded it? A person does not look, is not aroused by his close relatives, right? By a sister or mother. People are not even, there's no desire. So that's thanks to blinding. People are blind to their close relatives. People, right. Right, people are not don't have a desire for incest, and so at least that part of it is gone. In the olden days, like Egyptians did incest all the time, and it says in the Torah, and also in reality, right? The pharaohs they all married each other. Okay. רב גידל אמר גדול שגידלו בשם המפורש ורב מטה אמר האל הגדול הגיבור והנורא. Okay, so that ends that Agadah, very famous, right? Important Agadah about Yetzer Hara. And so now back to this Gadol. In the West, they said the following, according to Rav Gidel, Gadol, he said the Shem HaMeforash. That was, we mentioned that before. Mata says, what does it mean? What does he say when Ezra said, right, they blessed the name of God, the great name? It means he reintroduced the phrase, El HaGadol HaGibor VaHaNorah. So when he prayed, we say this, in the Amidah. That's a quote from the Torah. So here, this relates to the following Agadah. What he said supports this other statement of Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, which you all, I'm sure, have learned. The time of Ezra, they're considered the Great Council. Why are they called the Great Council? Because they voted for Shas. No, I'm kidding. Because they brought the crown back. What does that mean? Moshe in Devarim describes God with these three adjectives: the great, the mighty, the awesome. And then it continues, and it doesn't take shochad, right? Even though he's so great, he still cares about everybody. And okay. Yirmiyah says, look, the non-Jews, they're all in Echal, and carousing, right, treating it in a bad way. So we don't experience God's awesomeness. God would awesome, he wouldn't let this happen in the Beit HaMikdash. And so the pasuk in Yirmiyah, which he doesn't quote in full, says, Ma'el hagadol hagibor Adonai Tzebot Shemo. No Nora, unbelievable, right? It says we're not experiencing. God, if you were Nora, you wouldn't do this. So he took out the word. He says if the non-Jews are enslaving the Bnei Israel, where is his Gibura? So this is pasuk in Daniel, which says, Ana Adonai Ha'el Hagadol V'Hanora, and so on. So he took it out. Look, you can understand this two ways. Either we're not experiencing it, not that God, you're not great, or your greatness is diminished, right? You're because look, the non-Jews are here, and you're not doing anything about it. So he didn't say Gibor. Two inhu v'ameru adrabah. So now Anshe Knesset Gedolah, meaning Ezra, he came and said opposite. Zohi giburato shekobeshet Yisro shenoten erech apayim l'rashaim. This actually shows God's greatness and the fact that He is patient and allows these enemies to come, and that is strength, His inner strength, that He holds back and allows these enemies to come. This is part of the punishment that Israel deserves. So it's very hard, right? For you have to, if you see your child doing surgery, you can't be in the room. You're going to want to go and hit the doctor for doing that. So it's necessary, but that is in fact precisely God's strength. ben ha'umot. And God is awesome because, after all, how could the small nation even exist among all the nations? You're looking at the negative. Look at the positive, right? For hundreds of years, the small nation, even though they're persecuted, they're still alive, right? So that's something to have gratitude for, and actually is precisely points to God's awesomeness. So therefore, as I was saying, the Nevi'im got it wrong. You've had the wrong perspective. Yes, I'm going to say El Gadol HaGibor Behanora. Okay, amazing. Now, V'Rabbanan Hechi Abdi Hachi Ve'Aklita Kantat Takin Moshe. Rabbanan here refers to Yirmiyah and Daniel. Funny to call them Rabbanan, or it's actually the later sages that are Rabbanan. So how could they do that? How could they undo? So pasuk that Moshe said. Remember the seal of God is truth. So you see all these agadot they're interconnected. And so they said, we cannot lie, right? If we don't understand and we don't see that God is great, we can't tell a lie and go praise just flattery. Everything, when they said something, had to be with integrity and honesty. So they couldn't see it. But Anshe Kesed Gedolah had a new view, a new theology, a new way of looking at it. And then they were able to teach that and re-appreciate God's greatness and providence, even in the time when there's no prophecy, and time when they're under subjugation. So this is very, very, very beautiful, very profound, and worthy of thinking about every time we say the Amidah and we say those words. Okay, last section. So he reads these two sections by Ikra. We have a Baraita that says you're allowed to skip in Navi. Sometimes haftarot, right? We skip. We say one part, and then we do another next piece. And the Torah, you're not allowed to skip. But how could he go and skip from chapter 16 to chapter 23? They had a translator. After every pasuk, he would translate to Aramaic. We still do it after for a chatan, right? We say some pesukim in Hebrew and Aramaic, and so if there's enough time to roll while the Turgeman is speaking, that way there's no hefsek, there's no Torah sibur. So how long is this? How long does it take to roll? Right, go slow. Sing it a little. Okay, it only takes a few seconds to roll from these chapters, so therefore that's allowed. But to roll all the way to Devarim, that would be Midbar would not be possible. Hold on, we have another Braita that says you're allowed to skip in Navi, but not in Torah. How much can you skip, meaning in Navi? The amount of time that you won't make a hefsek while the Turgeman is speaking. That means even that rule is only allowed for Navi. Not Torah means zero. Haba Torah kelal law, no skipping in the Torah at all. No, it depends. If it's talking about two different topics, then you're not allowed to skip. If it's talking about the same topic, then it's allowed. Your mind is continuing. Oh, we still talking, Yom Kippur. We're still on Yom Kippur, so he's continuing and talking about the rest of it. Another Braita says, in Torah, you can skip within one, and Navi in two. And the kan biktesh shelo yafsika turgeman. And medalligin min Navi and Navi, u'benavi shel shenem asam medalligin. This Braita is supporting what we just said, because it says you can skip in the Torah within one topic, and this is one topic. In Navi, you can even move from one topic to another. However, in both cases, it has to be within the amount of time that the Turgeman is still talking, and you cannot go from one Navi to another, to one book to another book, and even among the Terei Asar, you can skip. But don't go backwards. Don't go from in the later book to one that is earlier. Amen.